Okay, here we are so far. Now, what have I done since the last video? Well, you can see that I put wording on my sign. It says dead end there. I'm still going to put something else on this because this is just too bare in here. I'll come up with another sign or something to flesh that out. I went ahead and burnt my 2 Vultures. Talk about that in a second. Down here on the base, I varnished my main hardwood base down here, and did the same with my secondary base here. I took the small third base, covered it with Bondo, and you'll notice this depression area right here. This is where the skull fits, and I'll show you how I did that. With some handy wrap, after I went and mixed me up my Bondo and covered the top of it, built up a good amount of Bondo right there where that depression is. I took my skull, which is right here, and just set that there like that, wrapped it up, and just pushed him down in there to create that depression. And then just took a popsicle stick and kind of pushed everything up in there to where it went around that skull real well, and then just left it alone until it was almost set up completely hard. After it goes off, you have a limited time that you can manipulate this stuff with a knife, which is what I do, before it gets rock hard. So once it's set up, you know, it was set, but it wasn't hard. I took the skull off, and then with just a pocket knife or old carving knife or an old utility knife, I whittled the outside edges, and any place where it was smooth, you know, I want texture on this. I kind of whittled that off, and around this area right here, I wanted all to flow out. So when I put my skull back in there, it sits in there nice and solid. And I'm not finished with this yet. There's still some detailing to do around the base of the skull, which is what we're going to do here in a little bit. And I'd already drilled a hole in my bases to hold the pole, so I cleaned that hole out. So here, let me just take this off. All right. This is what we're going to mess with today. Now, what I'm going to do today, the pole is the last thing we're going to put in here. So I'm just going to set this aside. We're not going to mess with this right now. So what I'm going to do today is I want to finish this base up to where it's done, and then I'm going to move on with my Vultures. But I want to show you one more thing here before we start messing with the other thing. You will note around the base here, I'm going to use some of that model railroad crushed foam to indicate some dead foliage right around this base, which will also hide that joint. This sign will sit up a little straighter, just about like that. I'll epoxy this thing in place once everything's done. Now you'll note that there's an empty space up here. Well, we don't want that. So I made a little bottle which will set into the sand like that, and we're going to set it in place on this base just like we're going to do here with this skull. Okay, but I had to get all this painted, all the things painted before we do that, because once we put it in place, it would make it a lot more difficult to paint these things. So just get them painted. We'll put them in place and anchor them solidly. So, take this back off again. on your base here. This is all ready to go. It's all finished. So you can see my hole there. So we set that aside. So now, I'm going to clear off this area here and we'll get down to doing the texturing like I mentioned. Okay, when I anchor these two things down, I'm going to use this 5-minute epoxy. I squeezed me out a couple of equal amounts here, so I'm just going to mix this up. Shouldn't take too much of this to put them in place permanently. Dollop right there. Now you're probably saying, gee, I hope he puts the pattern of this skull on the blog. Well, sorry, you're out of luck. I'm not going to do that, because this scene is going to be my scene when I'm finished. Hopefully I won't be seeing this scene again when I go to other wood carving shows. I'm sorry I do that, but well, I'm not sorry to do that. I've got to have something that's my own. So this one here, I'm just going to move that along and get a good amount of epoxy on there. And that's going to go right there. Just do a test look here to see what that looks like. Yeah, that's good. Okay, so now we're going to let that set up. It's alright if it's got some squeeze out there. That's not going to be a problem. So it's going to take a little 5 minutes to set up, and then we'll come back and continue on. Okay, our epoxy's dry. These things are locked on there solid, so that's good. So now it's time to move on to the second step, which is we're going to, although they look buried, we're going to bury them even further to make them look more natural. Now to do that, we're going to use some very fine material. Now this is not dirt, it's extremely fine sand. What? Getting directions from my cinematographer there. Anyway, one of these days I'm going to take you down the road here where I get this stuff and show you just exactly how I get this kind of material, okay? Anyway, we're going to use this. It's very fine, like I said. It's almost dust, but you don't want to use dirt because dirt will turn into mud, and we don't want that. This same stuff is what I use to cover this, and it gives it a nice sandy texture, which is exactly what we want. All right, this is Mod Podge. You can buy this down at a craft shop, or Walmart has it. It's just a matte medium. Acrylic matte medium, water-based, okay? Now, in this bottle here is Mod Podge, some water with a couple drops of soap. And what the soap does is it makes the things flow, cuts down the water resistance, and makes it all flow out. And that's what we want. So, here's what I'm going to do first. I'm going to take my Mod Podge. Well, first here, let's do this. That'll give me some of the cap, which is probably about all I need. And with a brush, I'm just going to put a bunch right around this bottle. I don't want a whole bunch, but we're going enough to anchor down some stuff. Then I'm going to start over here, around the skull, do the same thing. going to hurt to get a little up on that skull. Close and down in here. Alright, get this out of the way. Now we're going to take our real fine stuff, see if I can do this without blocking your view. I'm not a lefty, sorry. Now, show you what I'm going to do. Let me do it and I'll show you what I did, okay? This is what I want. I want that stuff right up against the skull to where it looks like it's setting in there. Looks good there. Around this bottle. I'll come back after this all sets up and repaint this. This is what's really fun about doing these little scenes, is coming up with ideas. I haven't done this before, so this is just sort of a new thing for me too. Okay, there we got that there. Now, next step. Let me set this down. Leave it out here on the edge so I can pick it up again. In this bottle I have some water with some few drops of dish detergent. And again, what that does is it cuts the water resistance and lets things flow. So, you've seen me do this on a few of the other things. So I'm just going to hold this out here like this. Get that a little damp. Put this back down. I need a little squirt. Okay. I'll take my soapy medium, shake it up good. I'm just going to trickle this down over the pieces because it's not going to hurt it any. Now, what? Did you see that? Did you see how it soaks in?
I can't see it.
Watch how it'll soak in and spread. See how it spreads? And what this will do, you have to do it, you're going to have to do it a couple times. It's not going to work the first time. And we might even have to add more sand to it. Oh, my hand's probably in the way.
Yes.
But I'm sorry. Make sure you put a piece of paper down. Don't do this on the kitchen table. So I'm going to stop right there. Set that there. Put the cap back on my bottle. And I'm going to get me a paper towel. Hang on just a minute. Blot up these pools. we successful? I think we were. So what I'm going to do now, there's one spot right back here I want to touch up. Got a bubble right there. Remove that. These bubbles pop as it dries. So what I'm going to do now is I'm just going to set this outside, not in the sun, but outside, and believe me, it's going to dry pretty quick because it's about 105 degrees out there. And let this dry and come back, and I'll probably have to soak this again. Maybe several times to get that medium to go down in there, because remember, this is a very weak solution compared to this stuff here. So we just have to, build it up till we reach this point here, which would then lock everything down. And that's what we want. We don't have to worry about our pieces coming loose. They're in there good and solid. But we do have to worry about that there. We don't want that stuff coming off after we make the big sale, and that collector who just paid you half a week's wages for your piece walks off with it. Because we want him to have a piece that's going to last a long, long time, forever, as far as we're concerned. So anyway, that's going to be it for this video. When we come back, we'll be finished with this part here, and we'll move on to the birds. Until then, I'll talk to you later.